Internet, Eric here. Well, I used to say when I was in the middle of doing the Phantasm series, I was also going to sporadically do some random vampire movie discussions. And now that the Phantasm series has all been discussed, check out that playlist, please, because it was a fantastic franchise, in my opinion. It's time for our vampire film. Got an interesting one for you guys today, and I probably never had any desire to watch this film or discuss it. But the reason why I did it is a little shout out to a couple of my buddies who I collaborate with on the American Werewolf in New Jersey podcast, Mike and Rod. Mike is the host, and Rod is a frequent guest. And I don't know how it came up in the subject. I don't know what episode it was, but I'm sure it was Rod. God bless you, Rod. Rod always brings up the bad movies. So this supposed bad movie, I've never seen it, but I figured, why not make this the next vampire movie I discuss? Today I'm going to discuss and talk about Vampire in Brooklyn. And my mic is already rolling his eyes. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I discuss plot spoilers, specific scenes, what have you. Watch at your own risk. This came out in 1995, so this was a pre-Scream for Wes Craven and a pre-Nutty Professor Eddie Murphy. Basic plot of this is we're following Maximilian, however you want to name him, Eddie Murphy. He is the last, I don't know if he's like the last vampire ever or the last of his tribe, what have you. He says how they started in Transylvania, then they were forced out, and they started living in Africa, blah, blah, blah. And eventually he's trying to find the last of his bloodline in Brooklyn. And what he does is he finds out that last bloodline member is Angela Bassett. He wants to seduce her, make her a vampire, blah, blah, blah. And he has a little... he has help from a ghoul, which was a human who was then turned into a ghoul, played by Kadeem Hardison, who I only really know from A Different World as Dwayne, and he was also in White Men Can't Jump. He was the man who was always mad at Wesley Snipes because, we're supposed to go to Sizzler. He's that guy. And Angela Bassett is a cop, and she's investigating some murders, and her partner is, what the hell is it, Lance from The Cosby Show. That's what I'm going to call him. So it's basically Eddie Murphy trying to seduce Angela Bassett while Lance tries to stop him, type of thing. Okay. I haven't heard much about this movie other than negative, but I'm not going to do this for Is It Worth the Hate, because I haven't heard a lot of hate. Just as usual, it's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, no one really hates this movie. Let's get to the performances. First off, Eddie Murphy, I liked him. I liked him overall. I like it when he's trying to be serious and dignified, and he talks like this, you know what I mean? And he stretches out his language and his words and stuff like he's prim and proper, even during the funny stuff. And there is a scene where he's being driven around by I'm just gonna call him Dwayne, the ghoul. You know what I mean? Dwayne from A Different World. He's being driven around by Dwayne, and they're trying to figure out how to seduce Angela Bassett. And Eddie Murphy wants to learn her favorite food, this and that, wine and diner. And Dwayne says something like, you know what they say, the fastest part to a woman's heart is through her stomach, and he's like, and then Eddie Murphy, like I said, he's dignified, and he's even dignified when he says it. He's like, actually, it's the rib cage, but that's besides the point. That type of stuff is really funny. I like the way he plays with Dwayne, Kadeem Hardison. Like, Kadeem Hardison, he's slowly rotting away. Every time you see him, he more of his body parts are falling off, and eventually he's impressing Eddie Murphy Max, and he looks at Kadeem and he's like, you know what? That's very impressive. You're going to be my best ghoul yet. That type of stuff is a lot of fun. So he knows what he's in. He's trying to take it serious, but have a little bit of fun. He's reeled back Eddie Murphy. You know what I mean? He's not Axel Foley or the 48 Hours character, but he's still Eddie Murphy. I liked him. Angela Bassett, she's fine. She's just there to fight Max and fall in love and all that stuff. Nothing special. Kadeem Hardison is the star of the movie. He is hilarious every time he's on screen. He's turned into a ghoul very early on, and I love just the way he plays off of Eddie. First time we see him, he's human, and he's working the docks with his uncle, Johnny Witherspoon. Johnny Witherspoon is Johnny Witherspoon. You've seen one role of him. It's the same. You know what I mean? Funny, but he can be a tad grating. But Kadeem Hardison is so good with him fantastic. Kadeem Hardison is so good with Eddie Murphy. You put this man with anyone, it's fucking funny. And again, he deteriorates more and more and more, and then that was what helps with the comedy. A lot of little gross bits. The guy who call him Lance, you know what I mean, the cop. He's fine. He's nothing special. I do believe. I don't know if they had a previous relationship, him and Angela Bassett, but you do believe him when he cares about her, when he's looking out for her, type of thing. There's some stuff that I'll discuss at the end, which you don't really believe because it comes out of fucking nowhere. But we'll get to that. The rest of the cast, it's just small people. This person is there, that person is there. Angela Bassett has a roommate that's a whore. She's unlikable. This is kind of a reunion, or a future reunion, or a past. However, there's some Wes Craven regulars or normals in this movie that is kind of cool. Mitch Pileggi from Shocker, and Nick Corey or Sue Garcia, however you want to call him, from he was, what the fuck is his name? In the very first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. He's the one that gets blamed for Tina's death and is strangled in the jail cell. He's in this. They play two Italian mobsters. That's kind of funny. And then W. Earl Brown, who plays Kenny the cameraman in the first Scream, plays a cop in this before Scream happened. So that's kind of neat. But other than that, it's just those are the main people to focus on. Eddie, Angela Bassett, Dwayne Wayne, and Dwayne Wayne is the guy from What's Happening. This is just Dwayne. Anyways, the Different World guy, and then Lance. So overall, the acting is fine. Johnny Witherspoon is okay. The gore is okay. It's nothing over the top. I think that the grossest stuff is kind of when Kadeem Hardison is falling apart. His hand gets ripped off. His arm gets ripped off. His eyeball falls out. Gets stepped on. He gets pissed off. It's a lot of fun, and the makeup is really good because, like I said, he starts off normal looking, good looking black guy, and then eventually the next time we see him, he's more pale. The next time we see him, we have like holes in his face. And I don't know if they did it on purpose to make him look like a meth head or a crackhead because he shows up with, a hood and stuff like that. By the end of the movie, full-fledged, like, Walking Dead. And that was really cool. That's pretty much the goriest of the movie. I mean, we get a couple bites. We do get a heart ripped out, but it looks so fake that I wouldn't call it gory. But it is what it is. Soundtrack isn't memorable. Isn't memorable at all. But overall, I like the beginning. I like how it's kind of a nod to Dracula. The boat ride into the city. That was cool, and that was a cool stunt. Having the boat crash through the harbor, crash into like the little dock area where Kadeem and Johnny Witherspoon are. I think they're watching Wheel of Fortune or play some bets or something like that. That's really fun, and that's a really neat stunt. Special effects are kind of hit and miss. It is what it is. Not too much budget. This is kind of neat. I was getting excited because we have more of Eddie Murphy under makeup playing multiple characters. He's Coming to America, Nutty Professor, Norbit. Even if, like, Norbit, that movie sucked, but he was kind of funny. Hit and miss. He plays two other characters here. At first, he plays a preacher, which I thought was going to be awful. Because the makeup, you could tell right away. It looks like Eddie Murphy, just, fat. Not like fat, like Nutty Professor, but pudgy. But it's funny how that bit is, because he's trying to convince Angela Bassett to be bad. That bad is good, so she can be brought over. And he's got to go to do a sermon, but once he walks into the church, his hair starts smoking. Vampire, church, crucifix, all that stuff. And he yells, "God damn!" Everyone looks at him, and he says something like, "God damn it, you, if you don't love Jesus," or something like that. He's like, "Let's go out outside." So he gives a sermon outside, and he talks about how good it is to be bad. And he's telling everybody's dirty secrets. Like, that man was with a $2 hoe the other day, and he gets beat up by his wife. But he's like, you know what? Sometimes you just need some ass. If it wasn't for if no one got ass, you wouldn't be here today. That was funny. The second person he is like an Italian, he's like a wannabe gang member for the Italian mob. I think his name is Guido. It's something very Italian and generic. And he's white, long hair. He looks awful. The makeup is awful. He's annoying as fuck. I hate the Guido character. So it's hit and miss. Speaking of makeup, the makeup with him when Eddie is in full vampire transformation looks really good in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of how the people would look when they turn into vampires in From Dusk Till Dawn, like Danny Trejo, especially Cheech Marin, because the way the nose and the ridges and stuff. So I think Eddie Murphy looks pretty cool as a vampire. Now, the downside, when it's Eddie trying to seduce Angela Bassett, it's fucking boring. It is awful. I don't give a shit about him trying to make her favorite dinner or this or that or just trying to be sexy. It's awful. It's boring. I want more ghouls. I want more prim and proper talk. I want the fun stuff. It's boring and it drags. Now, eventually, Lance, Lance, he shows up, wants to save Angela Bassett. There's a voodoo doctor who knows all this stuff. He's brought in. It's not important. He's there for 5 minutes. Excuse me. Eventually, though, Lance, he finds out where Angela Bassett is, knows what he's got to do to save her, blah, 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 thanks to the voodoo guy. And it's this final confrontation with Eddie Murphy. And you know what? The fight is pretty cool. Lance is being thrown here and there. Shit's getting broken, stuff like that. It's just kind of interesting that we never knew that Lance was a fucking martial artist because he's doing spin kicks and all this stuff. But you know what? I'm fucking going with it. And I'm having fun. Eventually, Eddie Murphy is defeated. And spoilers, the power is transferred over to Kadeem Hardison, where crackhead ghoul turns into sexy Kadeem Hardison again. And now he's working with Johnny Witherspoon. And that's it. Angela Bassett is saved. Overall, Vampire in Brooklyn, it's not awful. And I want to say this. I mentioned Rod and Mike. This is also kind of for Frenzy because when Frenzy found out I'll be doing this, he was very interested in what I was saying because he said he had never finished the movie because he thought it was awful and he didn't want to revisit it. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not as bad as what people. How would I say this? It's not as bad as its reputation. I mean, it's not worth an is it worth the hate video because, like I said, it's not like everyone hates this movie. They're just like they say it's crap. Plus, no one talks about it. But overall, Eddie Murphy's fun. Kadeem Hardison is the main reason to watch this. Great chemistry, great makeup, great effects. Just a boring middle. Very boring middle. And kind of disappointing, how would I say this? Multiple Eddies, I guess you would say. I didn't mind the preacher. I hated the fucking Italian gangster. So, overall, Vampire in Brooklyn, Mike, you would hate it. Frenzy, you should watch it. Rod, I don't know, dude. I'll just say that. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. And it's kind of interesting. Like, this was 1995. The next year, we both had The Nutty Professor and Scream. So, y'all got to start somewhere, right? Even though they've been around forever. They can't all be masterpieces. Anyways, like and subscribe. Comment below. Tell me if you've seen this. Tell me if you like it. Tell me if you hate it. Tell me if you're willing to give it a shot after what I've said because you've been avoiding it. I don't know how else to end this other than I got other things planned. Blah, blah, blah. Cheers.